What's going on, guys? Welcome back to IT Security Labs, and I'm very excited today because you get to join me as I show you how I've been growing and learning in information security. So today we're going to attack a machine, gain initial access, and I hope that you're going to learn a lot of new things. If you can hear me, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thank you very much for being part of this journey. My main motivation is because when I was studying in IT, I had the hardest time getting an information security job. I had a lot of experience in other areas of IT, but nobody would take me seriously. So I thought, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to let them know that this is what I know and also show them. So if you want to be part of this journey where you can learn something every single week, join me on this channel and we will do that. I'm going to show you today how you can attack machines and new skills that you can actually get. So without wasting a lot of time here, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce you to our network diagram because this is very important for us to know. I showed you this last week, but I'll just bring it up briefly. We actually have a firewall and an attacker machine that's already inside of the network. That's how this is actually physically connected. If you look in my back here, right there, we actually have a physical server that has this setup. So this is not a simulation or anything like that. We're actually attacking real machines, virtual machines in VMware. And everything that is set up here, you can set it up yourself. There is a lot of things that is out there. Hey Phil, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for joining. As you can see here, this lab here allows us to monitor the traffic using Security Onion. And this is Security Onion. I had it somewhere here. Right here, all this data here, we're actually monitoring real live network traffic. In addition to that, we have Splunk that is running right here as a virtual machine. And this Splunk machine is getting Windows event forwarder events. We get sysmon in there. We have Windows logs. We have PowerShell logs. So there is nowhere on this YouTube platform where you're going to see all this information in one place. And this live stream is going to be very, very helpful for you, as you can see here. I also have this room on TryHackMe. So if you go on the description, you can attack this room as I'm going through it, or this machine, I should say, on TryHackMe, as long as you connect to the VPN or even use the attack box. All right, so our main goal today is to attack this Windows 10 domain client. The idea here is if you can compromise the client here, you can actually go to the domain controller. Then once you get to the domain controller, it's game over. So our main goal is let's get initial access to the Windows 10 machine. And for me, that Windows machine is sitting on 192.168.38.99. So let me do a ping here. 38.199. This is my victim. How would you get this IP address? You might be curious. If this is a pen test where they give you a list of IP addresses, this is how you get the IP address. If this is publicly accessible on the internet, you can do your OSINT and you get IP addresses. One way or the other, you should know your victim's IP address, or you can do a net discover. So as you can see, the victim is responding. So before I do anything else, I'd like to start with an nmap -sv -sc. Let's do all ports like that on 192.168.38.199. So this scan here is going to scan for all TCP ports. This does not scan for UDP ports. For those who are going for some exam like the OSCP, you should do a separate UDP port scan because sometimes they do hide funny things on UDP. So this is a TCP port and it's scanning all ports using this switch here. So this might take a while. And while that is running, let me answer this question here. Why are you using Security Onion and Splunk? Not just Splunk or Security Onion. Well, there's a difference here, right? Let's go back to our diagram quick. I want to see two types of traffic. That's why I'm actually using both Security Onion and Splunk. Security Onion is getting my network traffic, just network traffic. I'm not sending any host-based data there. I understand Security Onion can and will get host-based data, and I have to set it up to get, I have to set up my agents using, there's a little tool that I've used before. If I go here, I'll tell you. The OSEC agent to send data. But in this setup, I prefer to use just SecurityOnion for network-based data and Splunk for host-based data. For the sole reason that this is all from Detection Lab, and Detection Lab already comes with the data setup. So Detection Lab will come with the Windows events, like WinLogs, and everything already set up here, including Sysmon and PowerShell and everything else. So I didn't want to work too hard, but I know I can set up SecurityOnion to just do everything. For now, I like 2, and it gives me a chance to look at 2 platforms. So that's why we're doing this. All right, so this is going to take forever, of course. We don't have all night here to wait for these results here. So I tried to save you some time because I respect your time so much. We go back here. This is the same exact query that I ran. And of course, we see that we have port 22 open. This can throw you off a little bit. You look at this, you're like, wait a second. I thought this was a Windows system. What's going on there? We are running an SCP server using Device Expert. So that's why we have port 22 open in Windows. It's this server here. As part of our methodology, I wanted to share with you some notes that a lot of people keep asking me for my notes, but I think I keep sharing with you some of these, the best notes that you can ever find out there. Let me see if I can find them. These OSCP notes here will save you a lot of headaches. I don't encourage people to go and cannibalize and use other people's notes. I think the best notes are the ones that you make yourself. But if you want a place to get started, here are some OSCP notes. These ones are trending on LinkedIn. Everybody knows them, and they are better than my notes, I'll tell you that. They have checklists that will tell you, hey, if you see this service, do this. You have to have some form of methodology and structure as to how you're going to approach a target. They're going to spew out 20 ports in front of you. Instead of your brain going like, oh my God, this is a lot, you have a methodology. You say, okay, I see port 22 is open. What do I do with port 22? According to these notes here, you can try to sign in using any keys if you have SSH keys that you have signed in. But of course, you don't in this case. So we're actually going to pass on port 22. So what you're going to see here is port 22 is not going to help us. It's a Windows system, and we just happen to be running some weird service there. I know that because I set up the machine. You should poke around with it if you didn't. My methodology is to go through these ports and try to do as much enumeration as I can. RPC is one of those wild cards where when I'm doing enumeration, especially for like the OSCP, I wouldn't do this for a client if I were doing a pen test, but for the OSCP, I do RPC after I've checked the website, if there's any websites that are running here. However, I always check my shares to make sure that they work. So if you want, make sure to check all your shares as well. And I'll actually do a quick brief enumeration of SMB. And one of the tools that I really like is enum for Linux, or enum for Linux. Can I get help? All right, so here's the help for the tool. And as you can see here, if you have any information about the domain, you can put like user list if you have found some users, and you can try to enumerate for a lot of things here using this tool. I find it very comprehensive. When there's something like shares and anything like that, this tool does tell us how to do it, which is really nice. So let's say, what option can I use here? I'm just going to run it without any options. .199. So let's see. This is going to go out there and tell us more information about our domain, find any network shares that we might find, and also if anything is there. In this case, we don't find anything really. All right, I'm going to call this good, but I don't think that's enough. Go through a checklist. In this case, you can check for RPC and any binds that you might have. We don't have all night here, but make sure to go through the checklist. For SMB, you can also just do this one. Actually, I'm going to use SMB scripts here for a second to make sure that we don't miss on the easy things to do. I'm not encouraging you to just run somebody's notes and their scripts and not have an idea of what you're running. I'm saying these will aid you in being efficient and fast in getting your results. You need to know what SMB is. You need to know what scanning and what these tools are doing. In this case, we see that we do have actually 3389, which is our RDP server is running, but also have SMB, which is running. So let's go back. This is where you execute SMB map. Why do you check for shares? Why do you care if there's anything that's being shared on these SMB servers? You care because that could be the easiest way to break in, especially for CTF staff or the OSCP. They put ridiculous things. You see a password file, a file with password hashes out there, just dumped on the server. I promise you, as I make more machines, you will never see a file full of password hashes on my machines. That's ridiculous. That will not happen. If you have to find users for the machines that I make, you have to find them somehow, other ways other than a password file listed in SMB. But we can do SMB map -h for the host 192.168.38.199. Jeez, I cannot type and talk at the same time today. SMB map. All right. So SMB map is going to try. It's very important that you spend some time poking at the shares. Also, RPC. Don't miss on those things. You want to make sure that you actually go and check these things. Of course, this time it's like, yeah, no, anonymous, get out of here. All right, moving on. So this didn't help me. This is a Windows remote desktop port. The good thing about this is it's telling me, hey, this is a Win domain, and it's a Windows 10 machine, and here is its name. So we know we're not attacking the domain controller. We are on a victim, which is just a client, but that's fine. And here we have a random port. The worst thing that you can do is say, oh, it's unknown, so I'm going to move on. Well, you have Google. You can Google this, like, okay, what runs on port 5040? You owe it to yourself to do a simple Google search, right? Oh, I do see that port is shown before, but what kind of service is that? Okay. So if you have a port that is just like that, one thing that you should just do is netcat. If you have an unknown port, mess with it a little bit. Netcat on 192.168.38.199 on 5040. Sometimes you'll be very surprised. Your netcat here will come in and actually tell you, hey, by the way, we connected. This time it's not connecting. So I would call that good. Unless if I don't find anything interesting, I'll come back and poke on this port. But at least I ran netcat against it to see if I can connect. All right, let's stop this. All right, now we are getting to interesting ports, right? 5989, this port here is a default port in Windows. You should know that because after seeing a lot of machines, 5989, I think I'm forgetting. I wonder if this is the one that allows us to use WinRM. I'm not too familiar with this port, but I know I see it all the time. Every time a default installation of Windows has this port, chances are it's not your way in, but this port here I know is a default port. All right, so now we go to one of the interesting ports. This one talks. This one is like, this port, I consider this one a snitch. Like, I mean, look at this. This thing is like, hey, I'm 6060. I'm actually running SSL. Very important to note, if a port tells you, hey, I support SSL, you better respect that. Because when you go and try to access this port using just regular HTTP, I'll show you here what happens. You will not be able to connect. Yeah, thanks, DJ Say. Yeah, that's a WinRM port, the one that we were talking about here. This one. So that means that later I'll show you how we can abuse this port here by using Evil WinRM, which is a nice tool that you can use. If you see this port here, Evil WinRM is the way to get in once you get credentials and a valid user that can sign in. All right, so now let's go to the port that talks. I said this one is demanding SSL. Respect that. Sign in with HTTPS because it's saying it's demanding SSL. Try even HTTP, but always make sure to remember, a port tells you, hey, I support SSL, you check HTTPS. A few people who did this machine from Reddit were like, well, I cannot get into the machine. Let me show you what they were seeing. They went to HTTP 192.168.38 or whatever their ports were, and they saw some little gibberish that came, and the main reason is because we gotta specify the port here. If you go to HTTP, you see these little dots that just look like gibberish. It's because this doesn't mean that there's nothing here. You went to HTTP. Nmap told you. It even said, hey, SSL certificates, here is when they are valid. In fact, these ones are expired. So you want to make sure. Oh, SSL is HTTPS. So let's give it. This is how exams like the OSCP get you. They put silly things like this that if you don't know what you're doing, you will not even break a single machine on the OSCP because of things like this. Okay, so now that we are in, because it's HTTPS and we respected and said that, if I were in a position where I didn't create this machine, I'll be like, okay, it's asking for a username. It's also asking for a password, but hey, log on as local domain. Okay, I see a drop down. Paying attention here, I can also do local authentication and local domain. Right away, this is information disclosure. This is a domain name, right? If this is public facing, a company should not do this. You should not go out there and expose your local domain name to people who are trying to sign in. If you're doing a pen test, you should be documenting this and say, by the way, maybe we shouldn't do this on public facing, unless if the domain is exactly the same as the website name, like, company.com, then maybe you can put it here. If you have an internal domain with Active Directory, this should not be there. Right away, we dinged them. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so we have local domain and local authentication. I don't know, maybe admin. I don't feel good when I don't even try. I have to try. Because people are lazy. I would do admin password, administrator, admin, basic things like that. My next order of business will be, I'll go and say manage engine device expert default credentials in Google. Enter. Go and see, does something come up that says manage engine default credentials are these? And I'll come and plug them in here. That's the next one. Right here. I would, so like I said, Google this, the name of the service with the word default credentials. see what comes up. In this case, I'll tell you right up front, I did not leave the default credential as admin here because that's just not the way we're going to do this. Or maybe I did. Okay, so this is a problem for us. We need to get in, but we don't have any username or password. But we need to break into this thing because it is a page that is saying we can. Our good friend Google says we need to go and look for Manage Engine Device Expert publicly available exploits. But before we do that, let's look at information that might help us. Remember, we're attackers. We think fast. We really think fast. This thing is from 2009. I bet a lot of people didn't see this. It's from 2009. What this tells me is I'll go to this vendor, Manage Engine, whoever does this. I'll go and look at their release dates, right? If they have a release from 2022 and a bunch of releases from 2009, I can tell, or at least I can be informed which version of this thing is running here by whatever they say here is 2009. I don't have a version somewhere, but I have a year. So something to keep in mind as you poke around, just think fast. I'm going to do a quick Google search, Manage Engine Device Expert exploit. I'm just doing this because my browser, I don't want to show you my autocomplete for my browser. Some of you are bad. Come on. Okay, I'm just going to go to ExploitDB. Give me 1 second. This is only true for people who go for the OSCP to go to ExploitDB. But don't rely on ExploitDB alone. I'm telling you right now, there are instances where even some of those people, like offensive security, they will not even have an exploit from here, but it will be from GitHub or somewhere else. But for now, this is a buffet of exploits. As you can see, this vendor might not be the most reputable one. And I see here that I've Managed Engine Device Expert 5.9. This is from 2014. I also have another one here. This is a directory traversal, JSP, which shows me that it might be Windows. But let me try the latest one first. This one says it's user credential disclosure. And here comes another fun thing. You want to be able to read other people's exploit code or anything. Like if this was Python, you should be able to read that Python. In fact, next Sunday, you should make sure to come back. I have a very fun box. I'm going to share with you about an hour after this is done because I have a really fun machine for next week, Sunday. So make sure to come because I will show you another important part about being able to read and modify other people's exploits. You don't just point and shoot. You need to know what you're doing. So in this case, if we send a GET request to this path here, it tells me you actually get user information. So just because this is a GET request, I'll just copy that and say, oh, it's just a GET request to the website. If you don't know how to read that, you'll be in a lot of trouble. But it's very simple. As you can see, I just got me password hashes, administrator, vagrant. It looks like we now have domain users as well. Local domain, administrator. Oh, this is bad news, right? This is the administrator's password hash right here. But what kind of password hash is this? This is what I wanted to share with you today, that you need to be agile. You need to at least adapt. Because when I was making this machine, this took me by surprise. I was like, great, base 64. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? It's base 64. Why do I think it's base 64? I see these two equal signs here. You see the base 64, base 32. Let me show you what I did. This was what I was thinking. I'm making a machine. I'm like, oh, great. What a silly thing to do. So I come here and I say echo my password hash. Let's pipe it to base 64. I have done this hundreds of times on this channel. I mean, I know how to decode base 64. No problem. Oh no, there is a problem. It's actually not interesting. I mean, what the hell is this? So I'm not interested. The passwords are a sorted MD5 hash. Oh, great. So you're telling me this thing with equal signs is an MD5 hash. Again, as attackers, we are not in the business of memorizing things. I think that's one thing that people miss when they attend my channel. They're like, give me your notes. I just want to copy and paste. We're in the business of thinking. Your brain should be like, okay, you told me this is an MD5 hash, but these two equal signs look like base 64. That's confusing. What is going on here? Someone says AES. Yeah, so we actually have a way to find out about this. Carly talks, and we say, hey, Carly, let's use hash identifier. Can you tell me what the hell is this thing? Those two equal signs show me that it's an MD5 hash. And Carly is like, yeah, I know nothing about that. Leave me alone. Okay. So Carly is not even calling this an MD5 hash. That shows me that this hash has more to it than just simple hashing. So lazy me plugs it into Google and I say maybe GitHub looks interesting. Please note, I copied the hash from the exploit, not the one from the one that came with my results. I copied the one here, because this has to be the default one. And sure enough, this one, after I searched, it says, oh, the passwords are salted MD5 hash, which can be extracted using the following Ruby code. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. The other thing was like, oh, it's just an MD5 hash. This time it's saying, oh, it's salted. But look, we're using base 64 decode first, then the hash, then we unpack, and this is in Ruby. A lot of souls were lost here. Well, first of all, you say Ruby. Oh, who is Ruby? That's what I got from one person. Oh, who is Ruby? I don't know Ruby. No, Ruby is a language. It's just like your Python. And you need to put this in a Ruby script to be able to decode it. Again, we are in the business of thinking. We're in the business of figuring things out. If you don't know anything, we Google the hell out of it. When I saw this, I was like, I don't know how to run this thing. So what you can do here is you can figure out how to run this as part of a Ruby script. Or another thing that I found that will help you with your reverse engineering is do something like this. Let's say you are against using Metasploit modules. Go to GitHub. Where is the... Get this CVE here. And plug it into GitHub. There's going to be a lot of results. But what you're going to see is a lot of it is going to be Metasploit modules. What language are Metasploit modules written in? Ruby. So we're getting somewhere. We have a proof of concept that shows us, hey, you need to run this Ruby script here. I'm looking at a bunch of Metasploit modules. If you don't know what Metasploit is, if you don't know what Metasploit is, you really need to study a little bit about offensive security. This is like everyone's go-to tool. I'm avoiding Metasploit here because learning really involves digging into things. And this is how, if I don't know anything, I always wonder, like, okay, how did they do it in Metasploit? Okay, it looks like here is the same deal. They put the encoded hash here. This hash seems to be constant. I still have no idea what this hash is doing. But whatever it's doing, they seem to like it. So this is how you decode MD4, base 64 encoded MD5 hashes. Okay, great. Now we know that, and this is how they're doing it here. And if you want, you can, when I went here, I wanted to copy the part where they're decoding using Metasploit. But I was like, okay, great. I just need to figure it out. How do I use this line of code here that would decode my hash? Now that I know I need to put it here, and I need to leave this edge here. I'm not going to use the flatten first option, but this is what I have to do. All right. That was a lot. If I lost you there, just hang in there with me. It was a discovery for me, and I'm very, very excited about this stuff because once I figured it out, this is what I did. Some of you might have done it differently. First, what I did was, I really don't like how this looks. This is just not my style. I want these results saved in a nice file. You know, the hashes are happy, the usernames are happy. Can I use curl command to get these things in a file? Yet another fun little, skill to have. If you can manipulate this data fast in a couple minutes or so and clean it up, you and I should be friends. We need to hang out because that's something that I really admire of some of the people that I hang out with. We need to extract just the names for the username, and also we need to extract just the passwords. I will show you what I did. This command would probably take us like 10, 15 minutes with me explaining, but I'm going to show you the final thing. I just need, for example, the usernames using curl. You might be thinking, well, why do you care? I care because I don't like to do things by hand. I would like to automate things as much as I can. First, if I run this command here, this is what it gives me, a list of users. This is far away from this nonsense here, and it's readable. So what did we do here? I'm just going to give you a quick and dirty explanation because it took me like 10 minutes to get this to this point. I ran the curl command, and I know that it's a GET request because my exploit told me so. It's an HTTPS server, so I need to say, hey, give me insecure. If you don't put this in secure, you get an error. Then you get some random error again. After that, you need to specify a cipher. I googled the error. The result said, put this in your curl command, and it fixed it. So that's what this cipher is. Still don't know what the hell was going on there, but that's what I did. If you do not allow SSO version 1.0 on your machine, you need to fix that as well. You run into an error, and you need to Google the error, and you get an answer how to fix it. But the interesting part is we're going to this site here on the exact path. Then we're using, of course, grep. Then I had to look up, how do I grep from XML looking stuff like this? Or Google told me, you can just say, hey, grep minus OP, put everything in the quotes, and then you can put the parameters that you want here. Give me 1 second. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you cannot clean data fast enough, you're going to spend another 20 minutes when someone who can clean data fast will be out of there in 2 minutes. So I'm still working on this skill here. I really want to be able to do this, but now I have a list of users. I know these are 2 local users. These are domain joined users right here. So I have a user list. Let's reuse the same thing and grab the password, because I do see that we have a password here. So all we can do is replace username with password. Someone somewhere is probably here for the OSCP. They're like, well, what does this have anything to do with the OSCP? This has everything to do with the OSCP. If you cannot clean data fast enough, maybe the user that you want is this hash here. If you're doing copy paste around, you, my friends, are going to run out of time quickly. Okay, so I got a bunch of passwords. I need to combine these two. This is where I'm going to stop. My skills are not allowing me to somehow. I can save this as a different file, save this as a different file, and combine them and have them side by side and do fancy things. But for now, I was just happy that I have the hashes extracted from all that noise, and I can relate whose hash is who by having these side by side. Very important to be able to clean up data. These are the things that nobody talks about. People just say, hey, you gotta be able to run nmap, but really, if you can manipulate data fast, that skill is just amazing. Not just for OffSec though, it's for everything. If you can clean data fast enough, it's just nice. All right, so we have password hashes that look like MD5 hashes. We have a list of users, right? We also know that in order for us to crack this, we need to run whatever this line is. This is not conclusive. I might be ruining this for people at offensive security or anybody who runs their certification, because if I were running a certification exam, this is what I would put there, because you need to think. You just don't need to point and shoot some exploits from the internet. And what we're doing right now is thinking. All right, so I'm going to keep this one here the same way. Let me open a new tab. So after doing some research, because I've never written anything in Ruby in my life, I found out, hey, I can say require base 64 because we need base 64. This is like an import in Python, which is where I'm comfortable. If you want it to print, you say puts, very simple. Then you copy the stuff that you need to decode. So in this case, we have the base 64 decode. We put our password hash here. Then we leave the H alone, which I still don't know what it's doing, but I know this is how you decode it. Very simple. Before I run base 64, I'm going to import in quotes, which is require for Ruby. I need to print the results, so I put puts. That satisfies what I saw here. So with that in mind, I can now run Ruby against this right here. I hope this answers the question for those people who think, oh, do I need to be good at scripting for me to pass the OSCP? When people say, oh, no, you don't need to be good at scripting, but at least you need to know the basics, like, hey, how do I print something? How do I put together a script in a language that I have no idea, but I know the basics? That's exactly what I just did there and showed you. To print is puts, to import a module is require. And with those two, I'm in business. So I need to extract all the hashes. I can make this even intelligent and have it replace this hash here with every single hash from my hash file and try to crack them that way. My Ruby is terrible. I suck at this. So I'm going to just do one. This one is IR8A. I picked on the second one. And the second one belongs to Vagrant. Great. Why didn't I do admin? I can do admin, but I'm just going to show you the one that works. They all will do the same thing. In fact, only the first two will actually crack. The rest will not. But that's fine. So let's crack the second hash for Vagrant, because I know that one, that's the one that works. And right now, if you're like, man, I'm so lost, I don't know what just happened there. Just bear with me there. It's just, we need to crack those hashes. Someone who is not proficient with putting two and two together will be scratching their heads thinking that this is just too hard, harder than not. I did not change anything here. I just literally installed a default installation. I had to figure it out. And if I could figure it out, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you out there probably figured it out as well. So to run Ruby, this is what we do. Extract.rb. And we have another hash. So we went from having this hash here to this hash. So we are not even anywhere close to where we should be. We now have another hash. Back to us thinking, it says the password is a salted MD5 hash. What this is showing me is this looks like an MD5 hash. This looks like a salted MD5 hash. So some background here. If you don't know your hashes, after a while you do. This is base 64. This is the decoded version of this base 64. And now we have a sorted MD5 hash that we need to crack. So now next, we need to save this into a file called hash.txt. Let's just say that hash in there. Let me make sure that my hashcat history is gone. I don't have any history here. Now I just need to run hashcat against my sorted MD5 hash and I should get the password. Very simple. I've already ran this. So let's grab my hashcat here. And as you can see, 486. To call that, exclamation mark, 486. We are cracking our hash. Well, what happened here? Oh, yeah. I'm trying to take shortcuts. There is no shortcuts in this. Let's actually, remember it's a sorted MD5 hash. So let's crack a sorted MD5 hash. I thought I had some documentation somewhere here. Where is my... Here. Here's an article that will show you how to crack using hashcat. If you want, I'm going to put this in the chat. I'll search for salted. That's what I'm after. So if you have a sorted MD5 hash, you need to put the hash this way. And by the way, MD5 hashes look different from base 64 hashes. So you should be able to know like, oh, that doesn't look like MD5 like I did earlier. So we put the hash and the salt after it. That's the syntax we should do. So let's go back. For the second one, I could have extracted the salt, but for the second one, this is the salt. One more reason to go back to your basics. If you don't know what salting is and what hashing is, you have some ground to cover. But in a nutshell, people put salt in order to try to, make their hashes more secure. But of course, as you can see here, we're going to crack this in a second. All right, so I'm running hashcat. If you go to hashcat documentation, it will tell you if you use minus M10, that means that sorted hashes, I believe. Then the A0. I also took this from the documentation. Then, of course, the name of the file where your hashes are saved and your word list. So this second option here tells hashcat what type of hash it is. Last week we did a bcrypt or some other crypted hash. Knowing your hash is going to be really important. After the hash is cracked, we see the hash, the salt, and a password. This is where I made a grave mistake. I left the password to the default. I should have changed it because a lot of people just went straight RDP on the machine and they didn't even crack the hash. My mistake will never happen again. If you see a machine from me, don't expect some silly passwords like this. I'm going to make the passwords interesting. I'll find a word that is like on 5,000 in Rocky.txt, so you still have to crack it. That's what I should have done here. But we have a password vagrant. What do we do now? We have a local user. You should have tried all of them, of course. I'm just cracking one. We have a local user, we have a password. Well, we need to sign in. This brings us back to our results, which I lost. You gotta be kidding me. I got rid of my nmap results. Now I'm getting mad. I like my nmap results here. So, yeah, I don't blame anybody who got in using Vagrant. You're an attack after all. That's what you should do. So, yeah. So, as you can see here, now that I'm in here, I can try to sign in. I was going to show you the ports that are open. One of them was an RDP port. And earlier in the stream, somebody says, oh, that's a WinRM port. So, since we have WinRM ports open, that got me thinking. Why don't we use a tool called evu WinRM? We can use evu WinRM to get in, which is nice. So if you have a username and password on a Windows machine, think evu WinRM. Evu WinRM, I think of it like one of those Metasploit shells. But it has a lot of capabilities. It will allow me to steal files from the victim and get files to the victim. Very easy, sometimes very unstable. That's the caveat that I have to add here. If you're using evu WinRM and you're facing funny results, probably because it's very unstable. So here are the options that you can. You can do a pass the hash if you can. These are NTLM hashes. They are not base65 hashes. You just need to know that. So according to this, we can say if WinRM, we need to specify our IP minus I 192.168.38.199-U for Vagrant. What is my password? This is the password. Yes, P. I don't know why. I've always put my passwords in quotes, or I do know why. My passwords used to have special characters and things like that, and it will not work. So by habit, I put my password in single quotes or double quotes because it really bothers me that sometimes it doesn't work. So if you have a password, it's usually not going to be Vagrant like this. You have some special characters, exclamation marks, and things like that. Put it in quotes. So if WinRM is going to try to establish a shell on the WinRM port, what does this tell us as defenders? You and I, the good people, do not allow WinRM unless if you have to. I'll tell you situations where you need to have WinRM enabled on Windows. I once, in my old life as a sysadmin, wrote a script that reached out to every Windows computer on the network using WinRM. And WinRM will query the computer for information. And in this case, I wanted to know the model of the, there's our shell. I wanted to know the model of the monitor that was connected, and it's saved in WinRM data. That was a use case for me, but bad guys, in this case, will also use WinRM to get in. So now we broke in. You can use RDP. You can use other ways here, like RPC in this case, but I'm in as WinRM, WMI/all. All right. Today was not about privilege escalation, so this was just about breaking in initially. Biggest takeaway is do not be closed-minded. Think fast, and you can only think fast by practicing. Watching me do this is great, but you practicing and really thinking is also going to be helping you, because yeah, it will really help. So as you can see here, my account that I'm in with the Vagrant user is actually just some local administrator on this machine, which is not ideal, right? But this allows me to do fun things because I'm in here as administrator. Actually, with Evil WinRM, I cannot even clear my screen. It's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to try that because that's my impulse. But since we're in as this person, this brings us to the second part. Okay, what can we do? We broke in. Great. We can go to the C directory and see what's in there, which only privileged users can. I have this TMP folder, which shouldn't be here. Windows doesn't have TMP here. Windows has a TMP folder in here. So this shows me somebody put it here, either an application or somebody else. How do I know that? It's because I've been playing in Windows through the terminal for a little bit now, via TryHackMe, Hack the Box, and also being a sysadmin. What does that tell you? It tells you you need to know what's normal when you look here. This is the manage engine. This is not by default here. It's an application that we just exploited to get in here. Detection lab, again, somebody created this here because usually Windows doesn't have that. Clear screen doesn't work. Okay. We also have this folder for Vagrant and a XAMPP. So we know a website is running here via XAMPP, which is, an Apache. It's equivalent to like LAMP in Linux. So we might go here and poke around the websites if we have to do privilege escalation. We'll go in the tools folder. Anything that doesn't belong here, we'll go and check it out. What is it? What does it have? How can we do privilege escalation from that? That's before you even run WinPs or any of your privilege escalation tools. Just go out there. You can go and poke around. Basics, know what's normal. If you don't know what's normal, you're going to be looking at this, drawing blanks. You will be poking in every directory here. Of interest, we want to check program files and program files times 86. In these ones, I'm looking for silly things like Google Chrome, Firefox. Those will save passwords, and I'll go and crack them. I'm telling you this because if you're ever faced with a Windows system, you need to have this like methodical way of thinking about it, right? You can't just approach it without a plan. The plan is check anything that doesn't belong, that is new. What is it? What could be there? In this case, I have a tools here. I like tools. I know, oh, by the way, Windows is not case sensitive. It will take whatever you give it. You see, I just went ls using that. So I have sysinternals here. See, I told you it's not case sensitive. And as you can see, here's some sysinternals. Why would anybody put this here? Because administrators like to make their life easier. They will put tools here. Go to Google. How can I use sysinternals to enumerate a system? Today, I'm not in the business of sysinternals though. So I'm just going to go to the temp directory. Why the temp directory, you may be curious. Why don't you just write anyway? You're administrator anyway. Most of the time when you land on a Windows system, you are not an administrator. You are some limited user who cannot write anywhere. Sometimes you cannot even write in your own namespace, depending on how things work. But you can always write to the Windows temp directory. This is where you put your loot. And another reason to put your loot here, when the system reboots, whatever is in here goes out. So if you don't want things to persist, put them in the temp directory, just like the Windows, the Linux one. So I'll do a dir. Of course, my temp directory is busy. I don't like that. Okay, so I can now say, let's put PowerView here. PowerView is what you use if you want to enumerate a Windows domain. So I'm going to show you how you can upload PowerView from here. Then we can go and see if we can run PowerView on this device using RDP, which is nicer to see. How do we put things using Evil WinRM? Do I have an upload option? I think it's the word upload. What I missed to let's actually exit out of this here. I just terminated my evil WinRM because I would like to be in the machines, and I'll tell you why. Bound. Jesus. Okay. I'm in here because I would like to upload PowerView. PowerView, if you are in a Windows system, you want to use PowerView. There's a few tools out there. Every week I'm going to pick on one. Today I would like to upload PowerView. If you have a default installation of Kali Linux with checklist and everything, type locate PowerView with the right caps. I cannot guarantee that you have PowerView. You might have to get it from GitHub, but I believe it came with Kali. Because when I looked here, it was in my user share resources PowerSploit. Oh, actually, I got this from the internet. So if you have PowerSploit or this, or if you have done a machine called Crossroads, I don't know where this is from. Maybe I made the machine. You have PowerView. Otherwise, go to GitHub and get PowerView. Then once you get PowerView, copy it to here. And I now have PowerView. So what I can do is, since I launched my evil WinRM from this directory, in the same directory where PowerView is, I should be able to say upload PowerView. I don't think autocomplete works here. Of course, I need to run my evil WinRM, then upload. Where was I? So once you run your evil WinRM and you're in, you can type the word upload. This is just like Metasploit. One more reason to like evil WinRM is because you can loot back and forth without needing fancy stuff like, HTTP servers and things like that. What I'm interested in is when I get an evil WinRM shell, does Splunk see this in Windows events? Does Security Onion see this stuff? Because this is just a lot of noise right now. So let's wait and see what happens here. PS1. This only works if you launch from a directory that contains PowerView. If your directory does not have PowerView, this will not work. And there we go. We now have PowerView in my documents. Okay. Let's see if we can load PowerView in here. PowerShell -EP bypass. So PowerShell has this thing called execution policy. It will not run scripts that you find from the internet unless if you tell it you need to bypass. And for you to bypass, you need privileges from the administrator. Actually, I think a regular user can. Let me know in the comments. I think a regular user can. Next Sunday, we will try this. Next Sunday, we'll exploit a machine and get in as just a service. I think a regular user can bypass execution policy, which is silly, right? Okay, so this bypasses execution policy. Then we can just run PowerView. Autocomplete doesn't work here. When you run PowerView, nothing works. Nothing changes. It just says fine. Then from here, we can see if we can run PowerView commands. I don't know if they will run via evil WinRM, but I have some PowerView commands that I would like to do here. All right, so this is not running. That means that my PowerView module didn't load via enumeration. Kind of disappointing though. Code that it says, you want to know what I'm doing right now. Right now, I got initial access to a system because I got a username and password. So what we can, once I got a username and password because I cracked it, they're exposed right here via hashes. I went through the whole process of how to crack base 64 encoded MD5 hashes. You now have a special skill. Once I cracked the hashes, I got a username and password. I got in using enumeration, and once I got in, I uploaded a file called PowerView by typing upload. Once I uploaded the file, I did a dir, and I see that the PowerView file is in there. Why do we care about PowerView, and what the hell is PowerView anyway? PowerView is a PowerShell script that you can put on Windows computers that will allow you to enumerate a Windows domain. Why do you care about enumerating a Windows domain? If it's a Windows environment, there's a computer called a domain controller. A domain controller contains everyone's information who is part of that Windows domain, including administrators. If we can break into the Windows domain controller, we broke into the company. We can get the administrators' hashes. We can literally do whatever we want. We can access network shares. As long as that domain controller is authenticating a lot of services, including emails, we pretty much broke into the company. So we put PowerView here to aid us into that. And I quickly realized, well, PowerView, for whatever reason, is not running here, even though I ran it right here. So that brings me to, okay, let's just remote desktop in here, because we also have a port for RDP that's open. That's the 3389 port. In Kali, which I'm actually using Kali right now. And then I can use Remina to connect. I'll show you how you can use Remina here. You know what? I'm not in the business of Remina. If you go on TryHackMe, this is how you access machines. This, as you can see, these are from TryHackMe. Put an IP address, RDP. It doesn't look nice here. I already have used, I believe, RDP. So this is the machine. So let me just open my PowerShell here. When it comes to PowerShell, I like ISE because it does have autocomplete. If you're new to PowerShell, use PowerShell ISE. It has autocomplete for you. Now, code-headed, you get here. I'm just going through a lot of very important information super fast. Trust me, I'm not doing it justice in explaining it. And if I were to explain everything in detail, we'll be here for hours. I'm just going through the steps that I did, but you can get it here. Let me see if I can increase the font here so it's easier to see for you. I don't think my Control Add would work in this virtual machine using my little tool. So I'm going to traumatize you by doing this so many times. All right, so I'm in here is Vagrant ls. Don't you just like PowerShell? You can now type ls instead of the dir. All right, here's my PowerView. First, I would like to, I look at the length. I've been burned so many times transferring files to Windows systems. If you see the length is 0, your binary did not transfer correctly. Just don't do it, right? Right now, I would like to see, is this machine part of a domain, and where is it connected to? So I'm going to try to load PowerView here. If it doesn't work for whatever reason, I'll just move on. So since I'm in PowerShell, I would say set-execution policy. This is what I was talking about, autocomplete. If you're going for the OSCP, you better know PowerShell. I mean, it's one of the easiest languages to know out there. This is the same as the command that I ran earlier. And it's telling me, hey, you already ran this command. You're being dumb right now. Just move on. Because it's saying, hey, it's already set. So let's run PowerView. All right. I'm going to try one more PowerView command. If this doesn't run, I don't know why. It's hanging. And by the way, this get net user select C, and that was supposed to get me network users. Why didn't this run? What the hell? This is why you should subscribe to my channel, because things don't always work. And actually, I couldn't get this to work earlier when I was practicing, and I was hoping to figure it out right now with you guys. So get net user, the term get net user, it's because it didn't run my PowerView module correctly, which is kind of interesting, right? That brings me to, let me check if this is getting logged, by the way. I'm just going to check in Splunk here. In my Splunk, in my Splunk instance, I do have partial logging. So of course, I like it. I would like it to fail so I can see what's happening. And as soon as this loads, I should be able to see if partial logging is working. Last week, I said if you happen to be a Windows administrator and you administer Windows systems and you don't have partial logging, I don't know what you're doing. You should have partial logging enabled. Oh, first, yeah, it's not ingested correctly. All right, I got problems. I have even bigger problems. My time, let me show you. If you look all the way at the bottom here, this thing is saying it's 4 a.m. What this means is my logs are being sent to Splunk, but Splunk, the timestamps are not going to really help because my system time is not on. I actually have two screens here. Let me fix this. Mike Smith says, I can import, and DJ says, yeah, it's not loaded. It's not loaded. Yeah, it's not. Anyway, let me check my Splunk to see if it's loading this PowerView. Then we can figure out if PowerView is actually working. Come on, Splunk, give me a free license already. I'm showing people how to do this. Okay. If anybody knows this, you should go and tell Splunk to give me a free license. You see all this crap that is happening? I cannot even show the community how to use Splunk because I happen to have ingested too much data. Great. Everything that could go wrong just went wrong right now. My Splunk is not even ingesting because I exceeded the license. All right, that's fine. Let's go back to PowerView. I guess today we just attack. Remember, I don't do this to be paid. I do this to learn. So far, why didn't this PowerView work? PowerView. Yes, I know Security Onion is working. Security Onion is definitely working. Splunk exceeded license. How are we supposed to learn this Splunk thing when we can't even? All right, so this getNet user should give us all the users that are there. So if it's not going to be imported, all right, our next task, how the hell do we import PowerView? You're going to be in the OSCP. You're going to be at a client, whatever. You see exactly what I'm going through here. Lucky for you, you get to see me sweat and do it with you, with everybody else. Yes, time needs to be synced, but my Splunk is already out of work anyway. All right, let's see. PowerView is not loading. The only way that I know is to run this. Let me just verify that my execution policy is set. And this is how we can do it. Get execution policy. Really? I'm even unrestricted, so it's not my execution policy. Or maybe, is it? I'm telling you, if you don't deal with execution policy in PowerShell, bad things happen. Here's how we can learn about execution policy. So right now, we are on unrestricted. The default execution policy for non-Windows computers and cannot be changed. Unsigned scripts can run. There is a risk running malicious script. So this is bad news. This is what we have. It should be restricted, but I just wanted bypass. Let's see. Okay. So we're good. It's not the PowerShell execution policy. If you ever try to run a PowerShell command and it doesn't run, it's because of that. It says it completed. And we got us. Did you just notice I just ran cat in Windows? That's because PowerShell translate Linux commands. And of course, I don't want all this noise here. So we do have this thing in here. It works. What the hell, PowerShell? This is part of a domain. So our execution policy, in fact, in this case, is being enforced by a group policy on the domain controller. So even though we have it here, I wonder if I jinxed myself by forcing it from a domain controller. But that shouldn't matter. All right. Another quick and dirty way that I'm going to do. Trust me, I don't intentionally struggle every week to show you that it's hard to hack. It just happens. And if anybody tells you that you go in and you hack and it's smooth sailing, they're lying to you. There's going to be a lot of figuring out and you're going to get stuck. And if you get frustrated easily, you're going to hate hacking in general because it doesn't always work. And in my live streams, of course, it doesn't always work. I've learned to enjoy it. Like, okay, it didn't work. I don't like this. Do I prefer that I don't struggle? Yeah, but that would be a big lie because I struggle all the time. I don't know why this PowerView is not running. If anybody knows, let me know. I got something to learn here. But we can get PowerView here. Or we can do a net user. Let me see. Well, since we're already in there, I'll show you where the users are. One more. These are the local users that are here. These are the local system users. Wait, Mike is trying to help me. He says .PowerView. But I did this. That's actually what I did. Okay. So we now, oh no, PowerView. All right, I'm going to try make suggestions so I don't cause a lot of people a lot of grief. PowerView. I didn't think we can do this. No. Oh. Oh, you know what? Yes, you can use if WinRM index. I'm going to pull the PowerView documentation here. I'm just being silly. Thanks, Mike, for being patient. You should join me on these things. So here is the PowerView, if you can load. So it's loaded. Now I just need to run the modules. Okay, give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. I must have missed something. All right, so this is the source code for the one that I have. I don't think they have the documentation here for PowerView though. I also have it in here. No. Okay. See. Vagrant. This is why we play this game, people. This is why. The adrenaline rush. The frustration. You're like, right now I'm like, okay, this is now getting to me. I need to get it figured out. How hard is it to run PowerShell? Make sure you can see the script and then import it. Okay. The permissions look fine. Okay. Mike, one more time. What am I supposed to do here? I'm also going to Google it as well. Kali. Was not loaded. Okay. That didn't like that. Yeah, it's not liking my command. That's what I thought. Well, we are going to figure this one out right now. Let's see. I'm an idiot. I'm going to admit this is so stupid. Ah. All right. I'm going to get demonetized by YouTube now. Okay. I'm so silly. Okay. 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 At least you can laugh with me. Now let's go. Anyone who watched this live stream is never going to forget PowerView. They are never going to forget PowerView. That's how you import PowerView, people. You make sure you do it right. All right, let's see if it runs this time. All right. Okay, so now it's running. Now it's actually running. I like that. Current security context is not associated with an Active Directory domain or forest. Are you kidding me? Okay. Let's check this thing. So if it was connected to a domain, this will actually run. I get so mad when I make silly mistakes like that. Can you imagine if I were in the OSCP and I'm trying to get this thing done? All right, so I'm just making sure that my machine is connected to a domain. All right, it is. But my user, my local user, is actually not part of a domain, which is kind of interesting. All right, let's try something different. Get domain user. I really like this Mike guy. Mike, you should join me on Fridays. Can I copy this from there? All right, so I imported PowerView. I might not actually go in depth with PowerView today. You should just give me stuff right now. Let me make sure that my domain is actually working. So I'm running PowerView as a local user compared to running it as a domain user. And that's where these errors are coming from. That's why I'm saying the context is not associated with a domain or forest. So I should actually run this as a domain user, which in this case, when I created this, I didn't account for that. Let's try domain name. The idea here is if you get burnt once, it's almost like stuck in your memory. Like the fact that PowerView didn't load for me this time when I was doing that, like I'll never forget it. And in this case, of course, it's not going to give me anything from the Active Directory. If this happens, usually it's because it's a local account and it's actually not able to read Active Directory. So to be able to fix that, I'm actually going to switch to a domain account on this thing. Was I would like PowerView to run for us. Then we can finish the stream. But of course, I would like it to run for us. So let's change our user. We're still going to use Vagrant. But Let me see. I believe in my domain I have a user called Vagrant. Let's save this and connect. We gotta make these things work. I canceled it because I realized that domain we cut that. We might have to say .local. If that doesn't work, figure it out. Save. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, you gotta make sure you have Google at all times in your corner. If you cannot Google, what I found out is that a lot of people really get frustrated. I mean, like they get worked up that things are not working and they lose confidence, they get frustrated. If you cannot just tolerate a little ambiguity, just testing and pen testing and also like just hacking in general becomes a very, very annoying thing. But if you're like me, I've learned I can make a fool out of myself to the internet struggling with these things because I know anybody who has done a pen test tells me, yep, what you're going through is exactly what I go through, and that's no more. And anyone who makes a 10-minute video and everything looks smooth is setting unrealistic expectations for you. So that's why maybe you should subscribe to my channel. I'm signing in as a domain user so we can run our PowerView and see some domain information. And while this signing in is going on, let's check our security onion. Since our Splunk instance decided to give up on us, so for security onion, we did a lot of funny business here. Why do we care about what security onion, which is the network data, or why do we care about what the host or the alerting happened? Anybody who is tasked with attacking any company's systems, they need to know the implications of what they're doing. If a company is alerting in place, they're going to catch you. If your goal is to hide, well, you're going to be caught. If you're just going to be running these scripts and not know what they're breaking, you're going to get caught. So right here, we actually have just nmap. How do I know that this is just nmap? Because all this was coming from nmap. So what this tells me is if WinRM does encrypt the payloads as it moves, just like Metasploit does. I think there is some encryption that happens with WinRM when you move things. That's why I don't see any Suricata events here. However, I should be able to go to Kibana and track these things down. I'm more interested in PowerView. Discover. Did I even see anything to do with PowerView or anything to do with PowerShell in general? I can see that this thing is caching data because here are some graphs that shows that. It's not the URI, just want that. Oh, I do see the extension for PowerShell showing up here. I suspect that if WinRM does not transfer files in plain text, And I don't think these are actually, no, these are not the real stuff. These are just IDs that end with PS1, which is kind of disappointing, right? Let's check down the traffic that is coming from our machine. So source IP. Let's put the source IP to be Kali. I'm just going to do this one. Let's remove the destination port. There's my IP address here, 91. All right, I just want to see what happened between me and this victim, especially traffic that was coming from Kali to that machine. What did we see? If we had any detection going on, including baselining happening, any SIM administrator would have been freaking out right now. Because according to my baseline, I got 0 at any given time. All of a sudden, I go to 70,000 events here, and I got another 68 and 70. Even if you didn't know you were under attack, having data that just spikes just like this should be just enough for you to say, whoa, something is happening in this time range here. What is it? Then hopefully you figure out, oh, someone was running Nmap in your network, and that probably generated the most noise. And then you can track down, okay, which 2 IP addresses were involved in that. Then, of course, hopefully that will lead you to this here. But so far, looking at this, it's a lot of Zik events, which is kind of disappointing that I think WinRM encodes. Does anyone know? Let me know in the comments if you know for sure if evil WinRM encodes our payload, which is nice for me as an attacker, but it's also not nice for the defenders because I cannot see the traffic here. Let me hold off on that. Let me go to PowerShell for a second. I think my system came back online. Back to my PowerShell ISE. This time I'm going to rerun PowerView with a system that actually works. So next time you run PowerView and you don't see anything, make sure that it will be a domain machine. And if you see the errors that I was getting, you know you're in as a local user, and local users cannot query domain information, which is good, because if local users could query the domain, then people like me who jump on a Windows system who know about PowerView but don't fully understand how domain and local accounts work will just be running things like what I'm doing right now. And of course, they'll compromise you. So we learned something together here. You cannot run PowerView on local accounts. That's just not a thing. I didn't know that. All right, so now it says we're in as a Vagrant user and is on a domain. So guess what? If I go to, I can still access the other users. I can still access the other Vagrant here. This is how Windows differentiate between the two of them. This is a domain joined Vagrant user. This is a non-domain joined Vagrant user. Documents, I believe. Ah, smart. Okay. So we need to get our own PowerView in here. We cannot use the do I actually have privileges to do this? All right, that's good. And I'm going to traumatize people here. Let's go to the temp directory. Okay. Did I just lie to people that anyone can write to the temp directory? Because this domain user cannot even see anything. Man, I should keep these live streams going. I'm learning a lot here. I actually lied. I take it back. You cannot write here as a domain user. Oh, man. Who said this was a good idea? Let me go to my namespace. I'm just going to write in my own namespace, in my own temp directory. What about my documents? So this is a clear indication of like a normal domain user who might not have admin privileges. I'm going to use setutil. Don't crucify me for this. It's a test. Python 3 -m http.server on port 80 because I don't want to give in 8080. Success. But it was removed by our good friend Windows Defender. I know that because it happens. So, or you cannot see this one. I think it's in the security. We might be at the same place like what we did last week, where if you put Windows Defender, this is awesome. This is amazing. All right. Windows Defender removed it, and in my domain, I'm controlling Windows Defender, not on the host. I have a group policy that is doing this stuff. This is great. Don't leave this live stream thinking, man, that guy is just not, he doesn't know what he's doing. Of course, I don't know what I'm doing right now because I'm experimenting in front of you. But I know exactly why it's not working this time. At least I know this time. Windows Defender, I'm setting up Windows Defender policy on the domain from the domain controller. So if I try to access the Windows Defender settings here, you might actually do this when you get on a machine, you're all excited, like, yeah, I'm in as a domain user, and all of a sudden, boom, Windows Defender gets you. And of course, what am I supposed to do now? I cannot get my my payload here. Setutil is just not going to cut it. I need to use a better tool, right, to make sure that it works. I wonder since the reason why it got through last time, I think it's because if WinRM does actually hide the payload. I like that. This is why we keep doing this. As you can see, my HTTP server told me, hey, I did deliver the payload out there. It's just not there. And if you go for the OSCP and you're like, oh my God, I'm struggling here, at least you know the reasons. So I got one more thing to test before I give up. That's my if WinRM with a domain user. This will prove to you and I that if we use if WinRM, because it doesn't show in plain text, maybe it will make it. But I think once it lands on the Windows system and it's a PowerShell script from somewhere, Windows freaks out. But let's see. How do I specify a domain user in WinRM? That's what I need to find out. Simple Google search. Or does it help show me anything about the domain? Someone is enjoying my pain. They're like, let's keep going. This is fun stuff. Yeah, of course it is fun. I'm looking up how to specify a, I think this is the option. I think this is the realm. I think it is the realm. I think it is the realm. User is not needed for Kerberos auth. Ticket will be used. Oh, I don't have tickets. Okay. It would be silly to not have a domain specified for if WinRM. Instead of that, either that way or that way. Moment of truth. Looks like somebody's looking for some notes. Where did I put those notes? I don't encourage you to rely on other people's notes. Your notes are the best notes. Okay, so I don't know how to get in using a domain user, but we're in here. What did we learn today? Before we're done here, Windows, if it's set up correctly and the administrators are enforcing the rules using group policy, if you get in as a normal user, you are not going to get anywhere. If they don't have a group policy object that's enforcing, say in this case, I wanted to disable Windows Defender. Well, I can't because I'm just a regular user. If you're a Windows administrator, the moral of the story is use your group policies and make sure that they're as tight as the one that I have here. For attackers like myself, there's room to grow. You need to go and learn how to, I don't know how to say the word, hide your hashes as you transfer them, like encode or base64 encode. Actually, you know what? I've done this before. I know you can decode things in PowerShell. Forget about it. I'm going to do it. It might be a long night, but who cares? Can I? This is going to be really bad or good. This is a genius idea. Hmm. What if you say someone is going to be really, really I'm going to say base64 for fun. Ah. Okay. All right. This is either a very terrible idea or a good one. All right. So really, Mike said we can just zip it with a password and Defender won't even see it. Okay, I'm going to try the base64 encoding first. Welcome to stuff that I don't know, but I'm trying to show you anyway. Good thing I never claimed to be an expert. Next, I'll put it without the PS1 if it doesn't work. Okay, so if it doesn't work, I'll remove the PowerShell extension entirely and just have the raw. It's BAS.ps1. All right. Moment of truth. All right. It was removed. Mike says it will delete it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we know if you base64 encode your payload, as long as you move it. Oh, what? One more thing. I'm already in here. Why am I even bothering? Here's my text editor, or I can use this. That's not the one. Someone is watching this is like, hacking is not for me, if this is what hacking is about. Or someone is like, this paint looks good. Let's do this more. And row. Then I need to do exclusion that Mike is talking about. This might be another live stream where we just have to find a way to hide away from freaking Windows security policies. All right. Who said this won't run? You and I know what bed.ps1 is. Forget all that. Now let's set. Oh, nice. This is good security, people. Access to the registry for that execution policy is denied. To change the execution policy by default, hey, I didn't say set it for everybody. Just for me. So we need to set our scope only for us. I got trust issues. Come on. Ah. See, I do learn things. Or do I? Is it possible that I just kind of got in there and I got this to run now? Is it possible, Mike, that I am actually in and and I'm actually able to run? Which is, in my opinion, this is kind of cool. Let me see. Where's my? Oh, here. All right. Moment of celebration, people. Now you know what happens. Man, I just love this stuff. This is really cool stuff. All right. So I finally got PowerView to run. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But during the journey, as you can see, that's why at the beginning of my slide it says, let's learn. First, if you're a local user, PowerView is not going to go. Second, if you try to move your files through other means and Windows Defender is in action, it's a big no-no. If you have Windows Remote Desktop open and you can copy paste, you still need to set execution policy as your current user. Then you can run. All right, so that is how we can get here. So now what I'm doing is I'm just running commands against the domain, and we can enumerate the whole domain. This is where I wanted to go. But I guess it makes sense that you see the struggle here. I just have some preset commands here so I don't make them up. So if you wanted to see some users on this domain and you just want the users, here's what you do. So this is a list of users. I just have to explain to somebody who has never seen this before. When PowerShell gives you the information, it's like a key pair kind of thing, right? There is the value, then there is the information. In this case, here's information about, say, let me start at the beginning of a user or an object. Here's the group name. It's identified by that. Or the account name is DNS admins. So if you wanted to grep for any of these, which I like, you can just do a pipe. So we want net group. This just is listing all the groups. I got this one from Mike last time. If I want users, it's get-net users. You need a PowerView cheat sheet. Nobody has time to memorize all these. This is all the users on the domain. This is a populated domain. I put a bunch of users. I think I put about 100 users here. So this thing actually feels and behaves like a real environment instead of just having one. We can output this to a CSV, then we can manipulate the CSV files, which is nice. But right now, here's information about these users. Let's start with, it's a user object. In this case, this is their given name. This is what you put in the form when you're creating the user in Active Directory or using PowerShell. And what I was saying is you can query by, I call this the key value pair. So this is the key. If I wanted just a CN, I can pipe that, and I think I can pipe, and this is your grep in Windows. It's called select. It's fancy. So now I have all the users. What is the equivalent in PowerShell for count? I believe I put 100 users here. So here's all the users from the domain. Remember, we exploited a Windows client. We did not exploit the Windows domain controller. If you look at the users on this system, we don't have all these users. Some of these people have never signed in here. We are querying the domain information itself. Mike, you had a command earlier where we could see the domain. Let me see what that is. If somebody has a PowerView cheat sheet, let me know. I'm actually looking for a PowerView cheat sheet because I just want the domain. Measure object. I feel like a kid in a candy store right now. It's a thing. How many? 106. Yes, I put 100 domain users. Where are the other 6 coming from? I mean, plus, well, I guess the other ones are local people. Okay. I'm just going to bring my PowerView here to see which modules I can interact with. Oh, this is fun. This is fun. Get domain user SPN. Find all users with SPN set. This is the one that we exploited a week ago. So if a user has SPN set, we can actually find their information. These are the easiest low-hanging fruits here. Okay. So it looks like we only have the Kerberos one. Last time for SPN, I had checked a box within domain. All right, so it looks like all right. This is just preempting what I plan to do in the future. But as you can see here in the description, it's saying KDadmin change password. This actually has a default password. Windows administrators do things like this where they put notes here like, oh, the user need to change password or something that is revealing. This is an example. Change PW means that I actually need to change the password for this. But get domain user SPN, you always want to check for those SPN and being able to exploit. There's two ways that I found for SPN accounts, and you want to do that. Nice. Mike, unfortunately, I cannot copy your command, but I just wanted to go through some of these modules within PowerView as well. Check for users who don't have Kerberos pre-authentication set. I already did this. I don't think there's, in my lab, I don't think there's anybody with without pre-authentication set. There are. Oh no, never mind. I spoke too early. These people have that box that says Kerberos pre-authentication during setup checked. And of course, I need to, if you need to filter, say by this, run your grep. Select, and now we have real users. Mike says line 65. Let's check. This is where the fun is. This is where I was trying to go when I was struggling the whole time. Find all service accounts. Oh, this is also another one. Service accounts, usually, what I know about service accounts is people use service accounts to run like their websites, their databases, and things like that. And they are very lazy. They don't want to change passwords. Because guess what happens when you change your service account password? Your damn application will stop working. So service accounts are left out there with password never expires. And if they are weak, and if you figure out what their password is, you get in and it'll be even fun that way. Okay, so we don't have SPN set on the domain admins. That's what this is telling me here. The money accounts, yes. These are the money accounts. So you see why I was working hard to get into PowerView, because I mean, this is a lot of information. Find end user or computers with constricted delegation set. Okay, I need to find out what the domain controller is. I know PowerView will tell me. Enumerate the current domain controller policy. Oh no, this is just no. Enumerate all servers that allow unconstrained delegation. Okay, I don't have those ones. Unbelievable. You can actually Kerberos from here. I'm actually going to do that. Find domain user location. There's another one where it said I can find signed in or logged in. Hunt for admin users that allow delegation logged. This is on the money right here. Get the logged on users for all machines in any servers in a particular domain. This we're doing. I don't think I have any logged users anyway, but this I like. So what do I need to change here? I think I need to put the domain here, which is windomain.local. Do I need the .local or not? All right. I didn't find anything. I don't have anybody signed in yet, but I know there's a get-domain controller. Yeah, I need to find out what is the IP address of my domain controller, because that's where the money is at. Man, this makes me happy. This is why we do this. Okay, so the domain controller, if you are looking at something like this, it has two network cards. In this case, in my lab, my domain controller has two network cards, so it's multi-horned. And so does this machine. So it has this IP address here, but it also has another one. That's something to keep in mind here. But using the fully qualified domain name, since I'm already in here, will actually get me there. So now that I know the domain controller, I can go back here. There was another one that said I can enumerate people who are logged in on a machine. Oh, never mind. I found a squirrel. Find interesting domain file shares. I think I don't know if this one will actually take, because it's setting the credential here. Let's see. I don't have any file shares set, so I don't think it will work. All right, you get the idea. This is how we use PowerView to mess with the domain. But if I were to use PowerView, I'm interested in what is the name of the domain controller? What are the users that are on the domain? Do I have any SPN accounts? Do I have any file shares that are not mapped to my machine? Because people don't always map every file share. Can I access them? Those are the 4 things that I'm more interested in to see if I can get in. And of course, any cap roasting is going to work here. Access control list, which will also be very interesting. There's so much fun that you can actually have with this. All right. I'm just going to check our Splunk instance one more time. I think we have messed up with a lot of things. I don't know how many people are still here. I still have 18 people. We have 18 people with a lot of patience. Let's go to our Splunk instance. I don't want to give up on Splunk yet. I know it was complaining about a license, but what else do I have here? Did that license actually? Okay. So note to self, I'll only start Splunk right before the live stream starts so that I don't run into my license. But it looks like Splunk actually just banned me entirely. because I think I've exceeded the limit so many times. This is probably host. But lucky for me, I'll show you the final thing here before we end. This is where the whole lab is set up in VMware. This is like better than some companies out there. The amount of monitoring that we're doing in here. All right, so where's our Splunk? I think it's this thing here. You always want to have, okay. I do have a before Splunk license, because I kind of expected it to expire and give me grief. So I have this. If I revert, if Splunk is tracking me using a hash, I might need to put this thing offline. And hopefully it works after that. In fact, it's offline. How are they able to tell? There must be a script within the Splunk instance that's tracking me. Anyway, Splunk didn't work. Security Onion didn't catch much, but we struggled and we learned a lot today. PowerView is going to be something that I want to master. I really want to get good at it. But we also have Bloodhound, which we'll play with as well. This is a lot of stuff and it's a lot of fun. I covered a lot of things that I know, some that I don't know, but I hope you learned a lot. If you like this, please make sure to like so YouTube knows to suggest this to other people, and also subscribe. There isn't a lot of people who are putting themselves out there, making a fool of themselves in front of a camera, showing their weakness. I'm doing that. So please make sure to give me a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you want someone who's just like you, who is learning. That way we can actually work. All right. We could switch it to a free license. Yeah, I'll actually try to see if I can go to the free license. I wanted alerts to work. So I'll fix my Splunk and make sure that the free license is there. Then I won't have problems with my Splunk next time. All right. Thank you, everybody. That was a lot of talking. I hope you learned something. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. And thanks, Mike.